Hi there, this is Dylis Guyan, and welcome to the Inspired Selling Podcast, the place where business owners who sell to bigger businesses discover how to attract, convert, and retain more of their ideal clients. And once again, I've got a fantastic guest for you today, Adair Good, who is a high performance coach, and she's going to talk about epigenetics and disc profiling and how this actually helps with recruitment and with increasing sales revenue by understanding personality types and so on. And she will tell us much more about this because she is the expert in this. But let me just tell you a little bit about Adair, and I'll just put my glasses on so I can read this to you. Adair is a published author and managing director of Essential Coaching and is a business advisor and coach with the Trusted Advisors Network and holds an advanced diploma in learning and development in New Zealand. And she is a certified associate of epigenetics and disc psychometrics and is an experienced facilitator and corporate learning and development professional. She has over 30 years of work experience in the government, finance and telecommunications industries, including 16 years working and living in Southeast Asia. Let me just get that correct there, Adair. Really fantastic to have you here today. And I'm excited to learn more about this because, to be honest, when I first discovered this and you first talked to me about epigenetics, I hadn't heard of it. I'd heard of Myers-Briggs, I'd heard of disc profiling, I'd heard of a number of these profiling processes that are available, but not this one. So could you just start by telling us really more about it? Give us some context around what epigenetics actually is.
Sure. Well, it's a profiling system that comes from where they all come from, which is the theory of Carl Jung. Carl Jung, I think that's his name. And it's based on thinking preferences, and which is Herman brain dominance theory, and added to that is the behaviours that people have. Now, your thinking preferences come from your mother and father and your ancestors and the things you're actually born with. So that's the nurture side of things. And we can't actually change those. They don't change over time. We are who we are with thinking. But our behaviours is what makes us different from everybody else. Our behaviours come from the first 5 years of our life and our life experiences. So if we've had traumatic events from the age of 2 to 5 or even up to maybe 10 years old, we can actually show that in our behaviours. And what in the behaviours, how we measure that is in thirds. So we say a first third assertive or a second third assertive or third assertive. And those show us the level of behaviour we're going to see when somebody meets us. And the one in between, the second third, is what we call the it depends group. And the it depends group is depending on how the level of comfortability they have with a situation or a group of people is how much they will become less assertive, first third assertive or third assertive. They could actually change scale depending on the group. So for instance, if you're a coach of a team, and you're quite a quiet person normally, because we measure expressiveness as well, and expressiveness is around how much energy you put out when you walk into a room. Not necessarily how much you talk, but quite often that's part of it. But say a coach who's at a rugby team or something like that, with the team, because they feel comfortable and they're in a situation where they're the expert, they might feel very comfortable. And so they show as a third expressive. But in a situation where they don't feel comfortable, maybe in a group of their peers, and their peers are more experienced than them, then they might show as a first third. But it's not necessarily naturally who they are, it's who they're being. So one of the things we do, this is actually a profile. Mm-hmm. You can see it there. Yeah. These are the thinking preferences up here. So we have conceptual thinking, analytical thinking, social thinking, and structural thinking. And this is actually my profile, because I can't use anyone else's because that's confidential, but it shows that I only have a very small slither of structural thought, which means I don't prefer detail.
Right.
So if somebody starts talking to me about a lot of detail of something, my eyes will glaze over. And as I'm married to an IT project manager, that can happen often. So they need to keep bigger picture or into the steps of what's involved to keep me interested. I have some social thinking. It's not huge though, which means that I have empathy for others, but I'm not empathetic as in like a bleeding heart type social worker type person who just listens to everyone's story and lets them stay in the story. As a coach, I get people to move over to after to become something else. Okay. So that shows in my profile, and what shows in my profile is an entrepreneur's type profile. What shows in my behaviours is, as you can see, I'm third for all of the behaviours. And the behaviours are expressiveness, assertiveness, and one we use in coaching all the time, flexibility. Now, flexibility is a really good indicator of somebody managing change. So in an organisation, if I see someone I'm profiling, they're third flexible, that's a red flag. That's a red flag that they could really have a problem coping with change in an organisation, like with restructuring, all of those sorts of things that can really strike those people really hard. And some people go, well, why have they been affected so bad? It's because it's in their profile. It shows in their profile. So somebody could have the same thinking preferences as me, have a different behaviour thirds, and they would then show differently in behaviour than me, putting those thinking preferences into action. So your behaviour preferences put those into action. Right. This is nurture, and this is our experiences. So what they've done is they've taken the human brain dominance part of it and added the behaviours. And the woman who developed all this with her colleague at Colorado University many years ago, about 30 years ago I think it is now, Gail Browning, she wrote a book called The Science of Success, which became a bestseller at the time, and she introduced this process over a holiday, I think at a barbecue, to the CEO of General Motors at the time. And he said, look, why don't you come and do this in my company? Yeah. You know, do this with my employees. She said, okay, I will. Well, then, to cut a long story short, she then started a business in it and left Colorado University, and she's been running that business successfully now for 30 years.
And so the difference between that and DISC is that you've got the additional information there that doesn't come out through DISC profiling.
Yeah, DISC profiling tends to more... I prefer this system only because DISC profiling tells me the behaviours, but it doesn't necessarily tell me the thinking preferences, although it does tell me the difference between somebody's natural state and their state of being in a certain situation. Mm-hmm. So they're more they're good for situational leadership more. But I find this tells me everything I need to know, particularly when I'm going to start coaching someone, or when I'm going to be looking at performing teams. Yeah. And I would have loved to have had this when I was in telecom as a manager in the briefing unit of marketing. Our role was to brief the sales force on the products before they went to market. Mm-hmm. And they didn't need to know everything. And with me, they didn't get everything, but what they got was what they needed to know to help the sales process. Yeah. And if I had had this information available to me then, I think I would have probably done a better job of knowing who my salespeople were, so I could attend to their learning needs in a much more effective way.
Yeah, and if that's also for recruitment. It's really
absolutely. They actually have a profiling system that actually helps you do the recruitment side of things as well. I haven't been trained in that, but it's something I want to look into. Yeah. It came in a few years ago. but you can use it for recruitment. One company here, recruitment company, uses me when they have 3 high-level managers to choose from in the recruitment company. They bring me in to profile the 3 that they have a choice of, and then they then choose the one that's going to fit their organisation best within the team that they're going to go into, because they want to complete the whole brain. Yeah. And so if I've got, somebody, maybe they've got someone that doesn't have so much big picture thinking, then maybe they need a CEO that has more of that, or a leading sales manager or something that has more of that. Yeah. Like I profiled an engineering company, it did a workshop. There was only 12 in the company, but 11 of them had the same profile basically. And but the owner was the only analytical thinker in a big way amongst them, but he was employing people that had what I call an engineering brain. They had a little bit of analytical, but a lot of structural. So he didn't have a lot of ideas happening around, and he didn't have a high level of social thinking either. So his idea was maybe to get the boys together on a Friday night for a few beers, but he didn't think about what sort of team events he could have. And I was the first person to suggest to him, let's have a team event where these guys learn who they are and then learn how to more effectively work together.
Yeah.
And that actually worked really well.
Interesting, Adair, because I've got a very good friend who is head of L&D, learning and development.
Yeah.
And she's running a team. And when they did the profiling, now I don't know whether it was the epigenetics or DISC or Myers-Briggs, whatever it was.
Yes.
The benefit of it was huge, because she said that they were able to understand each other and understand how people were reacting to things because of their personality type and their behaviours and their thinking.
Yeah.
Where when they didn't have that, there was much more conflict within the team.
Yes.
And reduced the conflict massively.
Yes, yeah. I have a story about someone I used to work with in an insurance company, and she didn't like me coming in. When I came in when I finished with the government, I joined the corporate world, and I became a learning and development professional with them. And she had been in the insurance company since leaving school, but she couldn't see my big picture thinking. Yeah. She was very structural and very social. She had a really busy social life in the company and all that sort of thing. But she couldn't get it when I was trying to talk about vision for workshops and bringing people in to learn the induction program, because I redesigned the induction program because nobody wanted to go. They found it really boring. So I said, look, I've done this in a previous organisation. Let's make insurance exciting. Let's make it based on lifestyle. Let's make it based on what we're going to leave our people when we go, type thing. She couldn't get that, and it was because she didn't have big picture thinking as her part of her thing. And also, she was first third. I found out much later on, she was first third in all her behaviours. So she found me very intimidating, and I didn't realise that. And I remember a situation where I said to her one night at the end of the day, have I offended you in some way, because you don't seem to be very keen on some of my ideas and things. And she said, you want to change everything. Right. That's what made me realise she was first, third, flexible. Yeah. I was moving too fast for her. But if we'd had these done and I was aware of what her profile was, I would have known how to manage her.
Yes. And this is also very relevant in a sales team, because not
absolutely
does the manager need to understand his people to be able to talk to them in the way that they will receive it. I think that's probably the best way to say it. But also the salespeople can look for signs with their potential clients.
Absolutely, yes.
They can't profile a client, of course, but they can look for signs, can't they?
Yes. But you can, there is an app that comes with epigenetics. To show you here, this is the app on here. Okay. Once someone has a profile It's free. It's called Imagenetics Plus. And anybody that has been on here that I have requested, like there's a whole bunch of names, I have requested, then says, yes, you can have my information. Well, that could be Barclays Bank. It could be, any organisation could have people on there that have said, yes, you can have my information. So from the point of managing a team, that can tell me exactly the brain I'm going to have in that room when I go to speak to that team the next time I manage them, because 6 of them are present and the brain is made up like this, because this app can actually do the whole brain and look at it. So if I'm going to talk to that group and try and get an idea across, I'm going to know that 70% of that brain in that room that day is analytical. So they're going to want a plan. That's something. So that is paramount in management. The other thing they do is they have a program called STEP, and it's for 9 to 18-year-olds. And teachers and professors in universities are now using that information to actually, parents are giving teachers that information to help them teach them. This is how my child needs to learn. That's really helpful.
I think our education system falls down in this way.
Absolutely.
Broad brush education and will give you all the same style of teaching.
Absolutely, yeah.
People who are like us, big people. You've got people who are much more detailed. You've got the more social people and so on. And I'm actually like you. I'm a big picture person, but because I know that and I've had my profile done, I work hard at the detail because I know
me too.
The devil is in the detail, but I'm aware of it and make myself do it, but it's not my natural way. So when someone is like, if I'm being sold to, for example, I don't, if I was buying a computer, for example, I don't want to know the technicalities of it.
No.
I need to.
Me neither. I just want to know if it can do what I want it to do.
Exactly. Yes. So with that in mind, and I've just said about, I'm thrilled that the education system is starting to look at this and realise that children have got different learning styles.
Yeah.
So what can we look out for when we haven't profiled? So we're just like, let's say you and I meet, or I'm meeting a potential client. What can I look for in that person that will give me some kind of guidance as to whether the big picture person or the detailed person, the social person?
If they talk about, if they talk about vision, talk about the big picture, talk about how they see things in the future, then they're more likely to be conceptual thinkers. But everybody has a part of each one, but it's to the extent. Now, on the profile, if you're 23%, it means that it is a preference for your brain. So to do with the thinking preferences, if something is 22%, it's not considered a preference. It's like water that's boiling. It only boils at a certain temperature. If it's not at that temperature, it won't boil. And it's the same thing with your brain. You've got to actually teach your brain to think structurally if you're not a structural thinker.
Yeah.
But to go into a job that had structural thinking as its main need, bad choice, because you're going to be a square peg in a round hole. Now, I've seen a person that was clearly a marketer, great with ideas on how to brand and everything, but was rubbish at sales. Yes. And they were moved out as a result of that. They were in a sales team, they weren't performing, but they were studying on the side marketing. Yeah. And that was their passion. And it was really obvious because of the way they talked about ideas all the time and how our communications group didn't have good enough ideas. Yeah. But he wasn't meeting, his targets in sales, and his boss, came to me and said, look, I've got a problem. What can I do about it? And I said, you've got a square peg in a round hole. This person, it's in the way they think. And this was before I did this. Yeah. I'd done DISC at the time, and Myers-Briggs and stuff, so I knew more about it. But I was just saying, you're trying to get, I don't know what reason they applied for a sales role, but they don't suit that role.
Yeah.
They don't ask the questions of the customer to define a need. They're telling the customer what they should buy. Yeah. And that was the key thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to my friend who's head of LLC, she has recruited based on the need. So she's profiled and looked for the person that fits that role absolutely. So she's got her creatives, she's got her detailed people, she's got her thinkers, she's got sort of leaders in the group. And so
like a natural facilitators, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So she's got a really good mix, and because they all understand each other's profile, they can understand why certain reactions occur.
Mm-hmm.
And she will say, right, so how does this affect our blue people?
Yes. Yeah, we talk about colours too. Yeah, analytics are the blue, the yellows are the, and the thing is too, it's not that you should listen to any one particular type. It's the whole brain that actually creates the genius. Mm-hmm. is actually attending to the whole thing, because the manager might be the analytical thinker, but if they only think like that, they're not going to make the right decision. They have to get everybody's, input, particularly if it's a major project or something, everyone's input to actually get the best ideas out.
Yes.
But then the behaviours come in too, because the people that are most comfortable with speaking will be the ones that are heard the most, but they're not necessarily got the best ideas. Mm-hmm. So you've got, as a manager, you always have to be a brilliant facilitator too, to draw out the best in everybody as well.
So this is quite critical, really, Adair, isn't it?
Yeah, yes, yeah, definitely.
It's like working blindfolded in a way.
Yeah.
Understand, or you're just going from your gut, or as a leader, you haven't even stopped to think about the types. And I've seen leaders in the past who think or recruit in their image. So
they clones. They get clones of themselves. Yep.
And they don't
That's very common.
Diversity across the team.
Yes.
Also, because the leader has a particular or a more dominant style, then they will treat everybody in that way. Also bring problems in itself, can't it?
Yeah, well, that's where situational leadership comes in, where you should manage to the situation, not necessarily the type of person you're dealing with, but you have to be aware of who they are to be able to know how to manage them best. And every single person should be managed differently.
Yeah.
I learned that through management and through making mistakes as well. But one of the things I truly believe is that to be really good at what we do, we've got to be very self-aware. And that means we know our strengths and we know our challenges. I don't call them weaknesses, I call them challenges, because they're things we don't know we're not good at until we try them, and then we find that there is room for growth. Yeah. And so they're challenges. But one of the things is we've got to know that first before we can manage other people. Because if we don't know what our fallibles are or what we can fall down in things, then we don't know how to be resilient when. So that's about emotional management.
Arrange another interview at time in the future where we can talk about resilience and how to.
Yes, resilience is huge right now, and this is part of the resilience thing is it's just been repackaged. It's always been there in organisations, but it's about coping mechanisms. Yeah, so much stress being created, and it doesn't have to be there, because stress is a state of mind. It comes from people not being comfortable with what's happening or what's going on, so they get it and it can internalise and actually make you very ill. it's because the coping mechanisms aren't there to cope with something.
Yeah.
And one of the best things one of my managers when I was quite young said to me, take every day at a time. Take a step at a time, take micro steps until you're comfortable taking bigger steps. But take a step and take action. Yeah. And they always said that. And it's like when you stopped in your tracks, what is the next thing you can do? You know, and that's, you know, like when you're on a, like for instance, I used to do cold calling. When you're on a cold call and you've made your fourth one and you've got rejected, whatever, it's really difficult to pick that phone up and make another one. But what they said to me was you do it because that stops the habit from forming that you believe that that's going to be another rejection. Yes. You know, so it's about picking yourself up, dusting yourself and just getting on with it. And I think that's a good thing to look at life like. And I remember when I had my first child, same thing happened. I was out of my comfort zone having a baby, not quite sure what I was doing, you know, floundering around with the first child, always been in control in my work life and things like that. And suddenly this child was sort of in control, you know, as they do. And same thing happened. My mother said, take one step at a time, one day at a time. Don't think about what's going to happen next week or the week after, because then you'll get yourself all stressed. Yeah. And once I started doing that, I started coping much because I was living in another country as well. My children were born in Hong Kong. And so I didn't have the support networks there. I found them through playgroups, but that's once the children are born. You know, that sort of thing we sort of club together as expatriates do in any country in the world. They come together and they sort of support each other as their families, sort of thing. But, you know, you don't have your mother or your mother-in-law to sort of support you. Yeah. But one of the things that I recognise is resilience comes from experience, and those experiences always have to happen so you understand that you actually can cope when things are difficult.
Yeah. So I think we should have another conversation on this.
Yes, resilience is a good topic.
It's a really great topic. So just going back to our profiling.
Yes.
Just give us 3 top tips for our audience that are listening or watching today.
3 top tips to do with
if they haven't done. I mean, I think we agree that this is an essential in business.
Yes.
That
yes.
They should be profiling themselves and their teams, because
yes.
it all enhances outputs and efficiencies and
yes, it definitely increases productivity, because we've definitely measured that. And feedback that I've got from companies that I've done profiling in have said, oh, the communication has improved, the conflict management, you know, we're not seeing as much conflict now as we did before. People seem happier, they seem more settled, we've got higher retention levels, these sort of things. And HR managers say it all the time, you know, retention levels are something you can't keep people unless they're happy in their job. You know, they will move on. And one of the things we notice when someone's profiled is there's a self-esteem that comes with it as well, because what we say to everybody is their profile is unique. It is who they are, and it's all fine. It is, you know, whatever it tells us is perfectly fine, because that's who that person is. And what they need to recognise is the areas they need to work on, which are their own challenges.
Yes.
And so what I'd say is being self-aware is key. Mm-hmm. And that's key in business and in life. Mm-hmm. The more self-aware you can be, the better you can cope, because you know yourself better. You know, the better mother you can be, the better manager you can be, the better person, you know, as well. So I think self-esteem is, self-awareness is key, and it's perseverance is also key in business, is keeping going to know that things will get better. So for instance, when I was a first manager, it's like I wanted to be everybody's friend when I became a manager, and I recognised straight away that there was a barrier because I was the manager, so I couldn't be everybody's friend, and I recognised that had to go. and I had to become the manager and step up as the leader and lead from the front. And once I recognised that, everybody else felt comfortable, because I was trying to be the friend, and they were like, well, who are you being? Sort of thing. So in my past life, I was quite a classic people pleaser as a child, and I was trying to please everybody and, not please anybody at the same time. So I think that's key, is knowing self is really important, and that self-awareness comes from knowing that about yourself.
Yeah. So how do people get in touch with you then?
Well, I've got a website. It's Adair Good at essentialco.nz, because I'm in New Zealand. So it's ADAIR GOOD at essential ESSENTIAL co.nz.
Excellent.
Yes.
What about LinkedIn? And
I'm on LinkedIn, so anybody who wants to connect with me can connect with me on LinkedIn. I haven't got the link or anything, but I've got 1,331 connections. So anybody who links with me has got a massive network they can link to. I don't post that often. I tend to just look at people's posts and comment. It's just because I'm so busy, I don't have time to write lots of articles, because I'm actually writing a book as well, and working on that. And that's going to come out hopefully later this year. And I'm writing that for the Pro Women's Network of America. They've asked me to write a book, and it's a coaching book, and it's about people. It's going to be called Stuck, and it's about people and how to get out of being stuck in their life. And some of these things are in it, about what tools you can use to figure that out.
And do you have any resources that people could refer to, Adair?
Well, there's my book, which is available on Amazon, which is called The Glass Ceiling. How to break the glass ceiling without a hammer. It's called, and that's on Amazon. But there's also 4 or 5 different ones I've written for, and what they are is co-authored coaching books. So they've been written by people that have got something to say about a particular subject, and it was written as a women's leadership series. But the book I'm writing is my own full book, and it'll be 10 chapters long, and hopefully it'll be released around October, November. I'm writing every 2 weeks a chapter.
Well, thank you so much. It's been so insightful, Adair, and I hope our audience has enjoyed and got some really good tips from that, and has got them thinking about, maybe I need to take the step into profiling both themselves and their teams.
Yes, well, if they want to do the profiling, then I provide that service. We can do the analysis by Skype. How it works is it's a bunch of questions. I don't get the answers; they're all done online. But what I do get is the results, and then I send the results out. But then I do an analysis of those results, and I can do it for an individual, or I can do it for a whole team, and I can do it for a whole company.
Excellent. Thanks once again, Adair. Great to talk to you. Bye for now.
Lovely. Thanks, Dylis. Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Bye.